Hey guys, Telegram Sam here. So I just want to give a warning. Usually when I film videos, I'll close all my windows and stuff to try to mitigate any background noise. But Portland is experiencing its first early heat wave, so it's been like 90 degrees every day for the past couple of days. And of course, I live in a shitty apartment that doesn't have any air conditioning, so I'm kind of relying on open windows and the fan to kind of keep things bearable in here. So I'm sorry, it's just way too hot to close my windows and not have my fan going, so I'm sorry for any background noise. That's just how it's gonna have to be. But yeah, so today's shout is gonna be to Tim from University of Vinyl. I've been doing a deep dive on this guy's channel. He is super smart and knows a lot of stuff about bands, albums, and the various pressings of different albums. He released a really great video yesterday about some great flea store or flea market stuff he's found. It's really interesting and really cool. He does a lot of vinyl pickups of really great eclectic stuff, a lot of audiophile videos. He did a great one of 10 easy to find albums with audiophile quality. Yeah, he's just a really great, knowledgeable dude. Go check out his channel. I'll link it down below. But yeah, today's video, I wanted to talk about the first 5 albums I ever bought that started this ongoing collection. But yeah, I kind of broke it down into the first thrift store vinyl I ever got and the first albums I bought at record stores, and the very first album I ever bought, which will be the last I'll show. So the first the first one I'm going to show is the first vinyl store vinyl I ever found. So I think I either just got my first record player or I knew I was about to get it. So my first record player before I got the current setup I have up here was my best friend's aunt had just gone through a shed, and she knew I was like on the lookout for record players, and it was like one of those big like single unit cabinet record players from like the 60s or 70s that had like the built-in stereo amplifier and record player. It was huge, weighed a ton, but she was like, I'll give it to you for free, it's just taking up space in my shed. I was like, tight. And I like can't believe that I played records on that, because it still had the same needle on it that it had in the 60s or 70s, so that needle was probably not good. It probably scratched and ruined records now that I think about it. But I was just so excited to have a record player, and I didn't really know about record players and needles and belts and stuff like that, so it was just a nice beginner thing to have for the first couple of years until I got like my actual good record player that I have now. But yeah, went to the thrift store because I just wanted to find a couple more albums to play on it. I think this was the first album I ever played on that record player. But I remember there's probably only 10 records there. I was flipping through, and it was all, gospel, Barry Manilow, Barbra Streisand, the usual thrift store stuff. And I almost didn't really look at it because all I saw was, this RCA Victor sleeve. It didn't even have the cover on it, but I don't know, something in me was like, oh, just see what it is. And it was, I don't know if you can see that, but Parallel Lines by Blondie. And this is like right when I first discovered Blondie. This is like when I discovered, that 70s New York early punk CBGB scene, and I was like getting really into it. I wore my makeup like Debbie Harry's, had my hair like Debbie Harry's. I was obsessed with her. So it was like whatever God you believe in was looking down on me that day, and I like freaked out, and I only paid 99 cents for it. It's actually really good. It just has some like few surface level scuffs, but nothing that really affects play at all. But yeah, Blondie's Parallel Lines, this is just such a classic. Even if I did get a better version of it with like a cover, whether it's like a reissue or original, I'd probably still keep this because this is just so sentimental to me. But yeah, this was probably the first record I played on my first ever record player. So that will always have like a piece of my heart. And plus, it's just a kick-ass album. It's just a classic new wave pop rock punk album. Hanging on the Telephone, my favorite Blondie song, is on here, which I believe is a cover of I think the band is called The Nerves. Great song. One Way or Another, Fade Away and Radiate, love that song. Heart of Glass is on here. Sunday Girl, it's just every song on here is a classic, and it's just one of those great all-time records. But yeah, I believe this is a 1978 pressing. I don't know if it's first pressing, but yeah, this is Blondie's third album. This was kind of their more commercially successful. A lot of their two previous albums before it was them kind of figuring out their sound, and this was the one that like really nailed it commercially. So love that album, super sentimental to me, and plus Debbie Harris just will always be one of my icons and people I look up to, so love her. So these next three was the first time I ever went to a record store. I grew up in a really small town on an island in the middle of the Puget Sound in Washington State, so there was no record stores around us, and plus this was like, early 2010s, before the renaissance of records. And my mom was born in Seattle, and a lot of her family still lived in Seattle, so about 5 or 6 times a year we would always make the 2-hour drive down to Seattle to visit my aunts and stuff. And I think I had some like leftover birthday money, and I convinced her to take me to a record store in Seattle so I can like pick some stuff out. I think I only had like $20 at tops. But yeah, these are the 3 records I found that I got. First we got Rolling Stones' Some Girl. Yeah, classic. I believe this was the second version. The first version where they had to take the celebrities' faces off, so it has the Pardon Our Appearance and the members of the band. Because the first version had celebrity faces on it, but then the celebrities found out about it, and I guess the Rolling Stones didn't get their consent to have their images on the album, so they had to like go back and change it. So yeah, I believe this was the second version that was pressed. But yeah, this was released in 1978. This was kind of the Rolling Stones' first commercially successful album. In the later 70s, a lot of their albums in between Exile on Main Street and this didn't really do so well, both critically and commercially. And plus, this was, during an era in music where, punk was starting to come about, and disco was really big. And plus, by the late 70s, the Rolling Stones were seen as an old band, and Kiss was coming around, and yeah, so this was them trying to kind of reclaim whatever commercial and critic success they had, and they did. I mean, I love this album. This has Missy, which is such like a good disco, but it's like hard rock song. Some Girls, Faraway Eyes, love that song. Shattered, Beast of Burden. But yeah, this was also the first album that Ronnie Wood was an official member of the band, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, this was, I think I only paid like $12 for this. Or no, it would have had to been less than that. Probably like $6 or $7. Just the classic yellow Rolling Stones label. Love that label. But yeah, all these I kind of just went towards the new arrival section because I knew that's probably where the cheapest records would be. So yeah, a lot of these are the best condition. This next one that I'm going to show, Def Leppard, Pyromania. I'm definitely not as big as a Def Leppard fan now as I was back then. I was just like really getting into music and trying to figure out what I liked. And they were just a name that I recognized, and this was only like $3 or $4. But yeah, this has some like surface level scratches on it, and it has some spots where it kind of loops. But yeah, this is a great album. This was released in 1983. This was Def Leppard's third album. It was the first album that had Phil Collen on as a guitarist after he replaced the old guitarist. And it was, and this record is cited as like a major catalyst for, pop, metal movement that happened in the 80s. So yeah, I do love this album. I have this on CD, and I would like to upgrade this version for a better one. But yeah, it just has, classic 80s Mercury label. As you can see, it has like a scuff right there. But yeah, I find those super cheap too. Not that expensive. This one, this is one of my all-time favorite records. I wouldn't say I'm a big country fan, but there's certain country, like older country that I love. I love Hank Williams, Merle Haggard, Townes Van Sant, kind of like the outlaw country stuff. And the king of outlaw country, Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash at San Quentin. This originally came out in 1969. This is a 1970 version. This was the second of his prison recordings. His first one was at Folsom Prison. And this was the first album without his longtime guitarist Luther Perkins. I believe he died several months before they did this, and he even mentions that in between songs. And this was the album where he first performed Boy Named Sue, which is just such a funny, great song. This is just so good, and plus I feel like it was such a big move. I'm not sure if Johnny Cash was the first person to do this, but he was like the first major person to go and play at prisons, which I bet was probably seen as controversial because a lot of people back then just was like, oh, that you're a criminal, you're the worst person to be alive, you deserve to go to prison and rot away forever, which is true in some cases. But he saw these people and humanized these people, and he did time too, so I bet he had sympathy for them and made them sort of feel like, yes, you made bad decisions, but that doesn't mean you're a bad person. You're doing your time, you're still a good person, you can still redeem yourself. And he's always pushed that message, and he does some great songs. Obviously he did San Quentin, Wanted Man, I Walk the Line, Starkville State Jail, that's a good one too. My favorite Johnny Cash song, Peace in the Valley. Love that song. It's such a beautiful, I believe it's a gospel song. Folsom Prison Blues to close it all out. But yeah, it's everyone should have this. Any Johnny Cash is good Johnny Cash. So, and yeah, I only paid $4 for this, and it's in really good condition considering it's it is 50 years old now. But yeah, the cover is really great. The record has like no nicks or scratches on it. It's really clean on the classic Columbia Red Eye label. Last but not least, this is definitely the first album I ever bought because I remember the day distinctly. I got this probably a year before I even got my first record player. But yeah, there's this antique store that was about a block down from the apartment me and my mom lived in, and I remember going there one day and they just had like this little stack of records, obviously the usual Barry Manilow, Barbra Streisand, various Christmas albums, and I just saw this, and I remember they used to play the movie Ray all the time on like FX or TNT, and I just became obsessed with Ray Charles and just his story and his life, and obviously he's a great piano player, singer. He's a genius, and even Frank Sinatra said he was a genius. But yeah, this is Ray Charles doing his thing. This is from 1969. This isn't a seminal record. This isn't one of his early, better known records, but it was Ray Charles, and I didn't care. It was $3. And for a while, I don't know if you can see, but there's a pinhole. It makes me cringe now talking about this, but I pinned this into my wall, and I also pinned the record onto my wall, because I kind of just bought it as decoration as first. I didn't think I would want to get a record player, but then, I started getting more into music and, trying to convince my mom to buy me one, but she's like, no, unless you find one somewhere at their store for cheap, I'll let you get one. But yeah, this lived on my wall for a year. It makes me cringe thinking about it, but it's still a great album. It has some great, soul R&B stuff on here. I love the song Come and Get It, Baby Please, We Can Make It. Love that song. It's like a great slow R&B song. I'm Ready. It's pretty funky. If It Wasn't for Bad Luck, that's a great song. But yeah, I mean, Ray Charles is just such an important person in music history. He was one of the first black musicians to be granted artistic control of his music by a mainstream record company. And plus, you know, just being a black man in America during the 50s and 60s and being blind and having people take advantage of that and of you. And, you know, he had a serious heroin addiction for 15 years. He's just such a strong, amazing person, and he wrote some of the greatest music. Georgia on My Mind, even though I've heard that song hundreds, if not thousands of times, it gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. One of the greatest songs ever written, and I still love this album, and I'll always keep it. I need more Ray Charles. This is the only Ray Charles I have. He's very hard to find, but love it. This will always be sentimentally important to me, so yeah, that's it for that. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you learn some cool stuff about how this whole addiction started. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.